Hey there, boys and girls. Welcome to this week's episode of Hollow Weekly. With this week's episode, we've been gone for a while.
Welcome to this year's episode.
Yeah, welcome to our bi-yearly Hollow Weekly podcast episode. This week, we're going to talk about what I've been calling it Shudder's Creepshow problem.
Yeah, I like that you call it the Creepshow problem. It reminds me of like those 70s disaster movies like the Poseidon Adventure or the China Syndrome.
The
Creepshow
Burning
problem.
Inferno or whatever it's
Towering Inferno.
Yeah. Took a break and we've kind of just reformatted the show so we can just talk and have a lot more fucking fun, dude. Like, honestly, like,
true. That's
you know, I mean, not that we weren't having fun before. It's just you kind of.
Well, like, I mean, the world got grim.
Yeah, it got heavy.
The world got heavy, as everyone knows, and that was, you know, it felt like heavy on top of heavy. So, but the one of the actually interesting things is that it was the first time that you and I had sat down and watched like a horror thing in a little bit, right? Like,
yeah,
together.
So like, you know, at first we were like watching it and then everything got heavy and it was kind of like, well, maybe we should just like didn't do that for a while and just took a break. But then like I'll actually say like maybe it was like a month ago I was like, man, we haven't watched anything on like Criterion in a while because we would watch some really fucking awesome movies and I was like, man, I kind of miss like seeing some of these films. And then eventually we were like, well, if we just reformatted it and took another stab at it.
Pun intended.
Pun
for
intended.
Sure. And glad that you're along for the ride. So the recent developments were you got vaccinated once, I got vaccinated once.
We didn't go together though.
No,
because we actually. So it's weird. And because I know a lot of our listeners are in LA, and I think today's the day anyone 16 and up can get it. So that's like the majority of people who've listened and like follow us on like social media and stuff like that. So everyone's in the clear to get their Fauci ouchie.
And we were like, we're in the one shot Pfizer club at the moment.
Yeah,
right?
we're Pfizer gang right now.
And then it'll.
We drove 2 hours north to go get it before it was available to everyone because there was a super vaccination site that I think could hold like 6,500 people.
That's crazy.
And on their best day, they did like 2,000.
Yeah.
And the day before we went, they did like 1,500. So we're like, well, fuck it, we'll drive. And then we drove 2 hours to the ocean and had like the company got us a really expensive steak dinner. So it was very worth it.
That's a good vaccination arc. It made me wonder like. What the shelf life of this is gonna be? I mean, I'm not for our show. That's not that I'm talking about like for Oprah or Joe Rogan or like whatever, because they're gonna archive like podcast episodes like circa around now. Like Barack Obama's got a podcast, right? So like they're gonna talk about like I just got my first vaccine shot or whatever, and then you know historians are listening to this like 50 years from now. Are they gonna, or not historians? What people if they go back and they're like doing like people who like watch the Johnny Carson show now for like, you know, shit, right?
Right.
They're going to be like, vaccinated for what? Right? Like,
dude,
or is it going to be like super obvious because it like came back like 6 waves and it's like, you know.
Well, I think that's inevitable because like there was this horror documentary that I watched and it was the one where they talked about like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What was that film where they were like basically spreading sexually transmitted diseases, but they were like through worms? I think it was.
Oh, like Rabbit or Shivers? Is that what you were talking about?
Shivers. Was it done by
the Cronenberg one?
Yeah, it was Cronenberg.
Yep.
They showed footage of the '70s energy crisis, and I
remember
there was
but
I remember looking at it going like, what was that even like? That seems like that would never happen. I remember they had like a gas station with a sign that said "Bone Dry," and I've never forgot that. In fact, we were driving. They're redoing a 7-Eleven gas station like down the road in Burbank.
Sure.
And on the because you can't get gas now because everything's torn up.
Right.
But on the sign for the oil prices, it just said "out." And I remember telling Alex, I'm like, it's weird that they have "out" programs.
Right, just out.
Like in the case of like they are out of fuel.
Right, it's like the film they show on Gremlins 2 when the world ends. The fact that the network has like an end of the world. Like,
it's very weird. But yeah, I think people will look back and be like, it's really weird. I did see some of the people who like listened to the show from the beginning got their shot.
Yeah.
And if you do get it, well, if you're listening to it while you get your shot in California this weekend, move your arm. Like they're not joking, dude. Like,
Oh, that's right.
Did you move your arm?
I did. You told me to, and it was nothing. I felt
I
nothing.
moved my arm and it hurt for 2 days. Like, straight.
I did exactly what you said, but if
I could like lift my elbow up, like maybe like head level, and then anything above that, like it would hurt.
that was weird. I was like mildly sore the night after, and then it was getting worse. So I thought, oh, here it comes, and then nothing happened.
Yeah,
It's because you gave me that tip. I'm still stuck on your previous, like, the dystopian look of, like, Cronenberg, like that old. Because there's a whole, like, New York from that era that you see in, like, Wolfen and Escape from New York. And,
Right.
like, right? Where it's just hard to imagine.
well, you know what's weird? So,
But
like,
I guess Don't Breathe was doing that as of like, what, 3 years ago? Is it?
yeah, but like you see like footage of like people getting like their polio vaccinations and shit like that, and like when you watch it, you're always like, I bet that was weird, and then like you could live through it and you go, yeah, it is kind of weird.
It's super weird. And you know how they feel because they must have felt this weird.
Yeah, like they're in line getting ready to get their shot. Though at the place we went to, there was like no fucking line. Like it was great.
No,
they stood outside and they were like, do you feel sick? Have you had COVID? And everyone's like, no. Like it was the questions you have to answer like all no to, and everyone's like,
Interesting.
no, we're gonna lie. We're no.
No, I did not have the same experience as you, but then
Oh yeah,
I did,
you went to some scary fucking place.
yeah, well,
you went to the place
no.
where they keep the Crypt Keeper.
It was
over in Burbank.
It was intermittently weird and just like kind of small and maybe a little disorganized. It was just a strange vibe, but maybe I caught him on a bad day. It's totally fine because here's the thing. This shit, I know this is not like whatever, but like it's like an absolute goddamn miracle of science, like on a Mary Shelley Frankenstein level, right? So like I don't care if they're just giving. I heard this story that in Israel, like because they're in a hurry to get totally vaccinated, so they're just completely back to normal. They can just do all the normal things, right? So like they had doctors and nurses going out onto the street, like hailing people in, like street vendors. Like, we got 100 doses left. They're gonna go bad by tonight. Just come on in here and like what? They were just like flagging people in off the street to just get to that high number, right? So like it's kind of nuts. This is how it's going.
I'm so glad I got it though.
I know.
Like I used to go to like Rouse and people would be like, and I'm like, get away.
Well, here's the thing. I'll say for you, I have not had a cold in like a year.
That's been wonderful.
And you are one of the very few people I've seen. So congratulations. You've never given me a cold. I can tell statistically.
Yeah. You know it's not my ass.
You've never gotten me sick. Because I used to get like 7 colds a year. And I was like, who the hell's giving me these? But it's not you. Because I haven't had it since I got down to just a few people.
I like not having a cold.
Yeah, is it the same?
I haven't been sick.
I haven't like gotten out. The Dayquil was expired last year. Like
because like I wear a mask because I'm not like a fucking moron, and I take vitamin D, so like it's pretty easy. I haven't had a cold and I didn't get the Rona, so like fucking come at me, dude.
Yeah, that's pretty good actually.
Because if I feel like if I had gotten the Rona, I'd be like people were like. They're like, I can't even walk like 3 feet without getting winded. And it's like, it's not everyone, obviously, but like,
right? No, I know.
Still fucking.
Well,
scary.
you're definitely on the hypochondriac side, so it would be torture for you to get it because you'd be examining every symptom afterwards if it went fine. Like, right? Like you'd think you had like a whole bunch of.
I would be pretty pissed, honestly.
Yeah. You would not take it well, I'm sure.
Yeah, no,
I saw this interesting thing. I didn't realize this. That absolutely forgotten Eon Flux movie, the Charlize Theron one.
That one they had on Ultraviolet Ray. Wait, what was that called?
Night Flight?
No. They had Blu-ray, HD.
Oh.
HD DVD.
Laserdisc?
And no, I think it was like one of the movies where you could like download it digitally.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
I don't.
I remember it being like one of the first ones where like it came with like a free download for the movie. And
it was exciting that this cutting edge technology that I can't even think of.
But I knew it was attached to Eon Flux.
That's true. That's very true.
Kind of weird.
Well, it's a fitting movie to do it to, like technologically.
Yeah. I thought it made sense.
But the opening card is like a really grim, kind of hard to take, like call out to the plot, which is like a world being decimated by plague or whatever. I saw the screen cap of the opening card, and I'm like, oh man, this is like the Eon Flux starts.
What do they say?
Like hard. You'll have to Google it because it's I don't know, but it was like whoa, you forget that there was ever even a plot to Eon Flux. Like who cared about the plot of Eon Flux? Like I never, it was never that was not the most important thing about that whole phenomenon. It's like what it's like. I think the storylines to Beavis and Butthead were poor. That's how that sounds to me.
It's just a lie.
right.
Beavis and Butthead Do America is great. That's the first movie I DVR'd. We got a cable box and like I went to Comedy Central. It was like Beavis and Butthead Do America. I was like, record. I'm gonna watch that later.
I saw a thing of like Tarantino's favorite movies, but it was one of those weird dated YouTube videos, like at an odd moment of time where it was like they were interviewing him, like 2 years before Hateful Eight or something, and they was like, "What were your favorite movies for the last 20 years?" So it was like 83 to 94. Like it was just this weird time, right? Like this random selection of time, and he had to pick like his 20 favorite. And he's naming all the ones you would think of, like all the like Goodfellas and anything,
right.
Like really amazing that came out. And then he goes and lays out Team America.
No,
that's
fucking cool.
That's one of his 20 favorite movies of the entire decade.
I haven't seen that in a really, really long. There was another comedy movie that I haven't seen in forever that I was like, we should watch it, but I don't remember which one it is, and it's killing me right now.
It'll come to you.
I'll think of it.
Yeah, you'll blurt it out in the middle of.
Yeah, in the middle.
While
of
we're talking about Creepshow. Speaking of, do we want to?
Let's dive in. So that's kind of what we've been up to. Getting. What was that tweet? Vax. Some guy was sitting next to a lady on a plane. She was like, "I'm waxed and vaxxed."
It's amazing how much slang has developed around this event, and then it makes you wonder how much of that slang is going to persist through, like whatever. It's like when you find out why certain things are named the things they are, and it's always like some kind of weirdo callback to something like in a fucking Washington Irving thing from New York circa 1860, and then we still call them Knickerbockers, and it's the New York Knicks, and like like it makes you wonder like what is getting embedded now in culture that's just gonna be this weird terminology that no one even remembers where it came from.
I wonder. Well, the only thing I really care about is if people stay working from home. There's no reason why you can't be working from home now. It's not the internet.
They should move a lot of activities to safer ground, probably.
Yeah.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. We saw Creepshow at home, and I'm telling you, this episode is not going to get more positive right now, unfortunately.
No, and here's like...
which is not our usual vibe.
I know, if you listen to the show,
right.
or if you're discovering it for the first time, we don't like to shit on things.
And we're going to try to make the best case here, but Shudder has a problem with Creepshow from our angle, right?
Call me crazy.
Yes.
Like,
I just want to try something before you.
Okay.
Hold that thought, because I want to try something, and if we talk about this at all, I won't be able to do it, right? So I want to see if you can review something without seeing it. So I'm going to do this with whoever is listening to this that hasn't seen this Creepshow episode.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about the Dead and Breakfast first. Okay. So if you haven't seen Dead and Breakfast, don't worry about it, because that's not what we're reviewing here. Let me just do Project A. Let's call it Project A, okay? In Project A, there's possibilities. If you have a serial killer that you've invented that could be like on the level of like an H.H. Holmes Jack the Ripper that no one in America's ever heard of, but is cutting edge and maybe America's first female serial killer, what story choice would you make with that serial killer? Would you have the serial killer be a real serial killer, give us a bunch of intriguing information about it, and then pay it off at the end as they're a serial killer? Or would you have them not be a serial killer at all and have it all be a hoax? Or would you have them be a serial killer, give you no more interesting information, and only tell you they're a serial killer when the episode ends with no more information? What's the worst choice you could make there? All right. So just think about that. Because when we're reviewing this episode, I'm not sure you even need to know that it's Creepshow or that it's anything except for here's the choices they're making in this thing.
The fact that you tell them it's Creepshow, I think, makes it worse. Like,
right.
It's Creepshow. Like, it should be.
Or like, here, I'll give you another example. Karma payoff, right? If you're going to pick a character to give a karma payoff to, Creepshow style, right?
Right.
Do you pick someone who's trying to get rich and stepping over everyone in their path, or do you give it to someone who's cheating on their spouse, or do you give it to someone who's just doing their job? Like, what's the worst possible choice out of that?
Right.
Because if you think C is the worst choice, then you're reviewing the Creepshow episode we're talking about right now before you've even seen it, because they're making all of the letter C choices.
Yeah, it's
right. But go ahead. I mean, you're the biggest Creepshow fan. Tell me what the Creepshow problem.
So here's the thing: is like identifying the Creepshow problem is hard to describe.
Okay.
And the only way I can describe it is like you and I. We live in Southern California. We have In-N-Out. I love In-N-Out. But it would be like going to In-N-Out, taking a big bite of a double, and then getting just a bunch of fish flavors in your mouth. You're like, why is this happening? I like this. I love this place. But why does it not taste good to me anymore? That is
interesting.
That is how I can describe what Creepshow is. I want to love Creepshow. I want to love the show.
Because you're so anyone who hasn't listened, or because we haven't done an episode in a while, to be fair, you're literally Creepshow is one of your formative horror movies.
Yeah,
one of your top 10.
Love it.
One of the very first movies I ever found out when I met you that you loved. Right, so this is one of those core movies.
Here's the thing, Creepshow. Here's the other thing that sort of baffles me: the people who are working on Creepshow for the Shudders.
Or like you, they love it.
Well, and they are talented fucking people.
Sure.
Like, the reason I wanted to get back into it is because, and I hope I'm saying it, it's Axel Caroline.
Axel Caroline, yeah, sure.
Yeah, we follow her on
she's amazing.
On Instagram. She had a badass Sleepy Hollow cake.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to know where.
Indeed, she's great on social media. Definitely should follow her.
So she's done episodes of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina I love, and the one thing that I thought was a real standout for me and Alex, she did our favorite episode of Bly Manor. It was the one towards the end where the lady
time jump episode.
Yeah, where the lady who drowned that keeps showing her like repeating, and it we actually I think we talked about that. It kind of had that Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner kind of like rhythm to it.
Great episode, and cannot be easy to direct something that's that complex.
It was a naga. In fact, even when we first started the episode, Alex and I were like, "Oh, it's the episode where they go back in time and they explain the old stuff." Every series like that has it. They go back in time for one episode, and it's usually kind of boring and it doesn't fill in a whole lot of information, but they got to have it.
Can I tell you? You don't remember this, but you told me that, and I told Jenny that in real time before we ever watched it.
Right.
We looked at the plot, like the teaser for the next week, or we were watching it after some of them had aired. I can't remember how it went, and we were like, let's read the plot synopsis. And you were like, you told me, you're like, oh, that one's going to suck. It's the one that all the series do where they do the thing. And I told Jenny, like, maybe we should skip this one because it's the one that sucks.
Goes back in time. Like, we already know. You know.
Like, I expected it to be the worst episode of the season, and it was probably the best.
It was Alex and I's favorite episode of Bly Manor. I don't remember what our favorite of Hill House was, but it was definitely our favorite episode of Bly Manor.
So it's not lack of directing chops or anything like that.
No, like she's a badass director.
But the Creepshow problem is all of it. So
so that's what I'm trying to figure out because like. And like you have people like Greg Nicotero, who's like the big name behind it, who like was like studied under Tom Savini, who worked on Creepshow.
Right.
So there's like all these.
Everyone is eminently qualified.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I'm just trying to like figure out like it feels so like. Let me just describe. I'm just going to say how I feel about it, and like hopefully we can decipher what this means. Yeah. It feels very, very, very light. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel very, very light, and it feels noisy. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's a lot of moments in Creepshow that like to my memory seem silent, but maybe there's music in there that I don't remember. But this one just feels light. It feels noisy, and we actually talked about it when we were watching the Dead and Breakfast one. Is like, let me ask you this: Pulp store, like Pulp. Where did that come from? Do you know where that originated from? Why they called it Pulp? Whatever.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it was printed on really cheap pulp type paper, so they were like dime store or 1-cent novels, and then when you get what you pay for, like those are bad writers who are telling really easy to tell stories, like are really easy plot westerns or mysteries, or
the thing that we were talking about yesterday was like Creepshow like we'll just go with the first Creepshow. We'll have to look at Creepshow too. But like even if you look at this first one, like it had some cheesy moments, mainly Ed Harris dancing. I mean that's pretty fucking that's pretty terrible.
That's pretty terrible.
But it also had like this grit and this bite to it. Like the "Where's my cake" when the guy father comes back in, like it has these moments, but this one, you can see the marks of where they're going for those gritty moments, but they're not executing them very well. And I don't know I don't know if there is a term for this, but I call it the Creepshow shot, and it's usually where they have like a gobo in the background creating some pattern and crazy colors, like the comic panel.
Yeah, sort of like Sin City-esque, but they did it first.
But and like Creepshow, they were like who's a great striker in boxing? Like,
what do you mean, like quick punch?
Who had like the best like
George Foreman was the heaviest.
So George Foreman, like he those heavy hits.
Yes.
Creepshow would do it similar to that. Like someone who knew when to punch, like an Anderson Silva for like MMA, for like the UFC. Like he knew when to throw, he knew when to counter, and he would when he threw the punch, it was going to land.
Let me try another analogy for you. Like, because I have actually had this experience. Unfortunately, I got sent to camp for some summers, right?
Was it a Jesus camp?
And it was no, thank God. But it was
that is what we watched over quarantine.
That's right. Oh my God, this is a horror podcast. So, all right, so the thing is that it was I've had this experience where they would invite everybody over for multiple years. So I went like 3 years. So like the personnel changed, but it was always the same format, blah, 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 right? So like year one, they had someone tell a spooky story by the fire. And they were awesome. Like I was up all night. I mean, I was like 8, 10, whatever.
Right.
But like I was terrified, by the story. The next year, they had someone do this guy same thing. They're like, I'm going to tell you a scary story. And 7 seconds in, I was like, this person doesn't know how to tell a story.
Right.
Like I was like 9, but like I knew that they weren't going to pull it off. And you can tell with this Creepshow that's there, but it's so hard to put your finger on. Yeah. Right. Like,
and just so I don't lose that, I thought those Creepshow moments were like, "Where's my cake?" and like the crazy colors in the background. I just feel like there's moments where they do it in the Creepshow TV series that it doesn't have that weight. Like it doesn't feel warranted, or and the execution just it feels like you're doing the right dance moves on the wrong beat.
Okay, well, but it's not exactly the look of it, because you like the look of it.
Some of them
mostly, no.
Some of them. Okay. Some of them look good, and then some of them come off like way too cheesy, like even for Creepshow.
All right, well that's fair enough, because I don't know, because I can't visualize it as well as you do, but like it looks similar to me when they do the colored pattern shots or whatever, but I just don't feel like they land. They're not paced right, so they're not.
Yeah.
And if they're not paying off, well, you need the writing to pay that off, right?
Yeah.
Like when you do the moment in the original Creepshow. I mean, it's not even fair because the original Creepshow is so good, right? Like, but when you do those moments with the tide coming in or the bugs, when they go to that color moment, like you're 100% bought in on those characters.
Yeah.
Like you're invested. That's part of why it hits. Like maybe it looks the same. They just haven't written it well.
Yeah. I mean, it's just got to be a writing thing. It's got to be
right. Like
it's got to be a writing thing.
But let's talk about Dead and Breakfast real quick.
Okay.
So this is a specific episode, right? Do you want to do this, or do we have more general?
Yeah, let's just jump into the
because if we can figure out what's wrong with Dead and Breakfast, we can figure out part of what's wrong with Creepshow.
So just so everyone's, we rewatched that one,
yes,
because I like the director, and then we just watched before recording this
Public Television of the Dead.
Yeah, and mainly because we saw Ted Raimi's in it, and we're like, fuck yeah, Ted Raimi.
Deadite call outs.
Yeah. How could you not?
Oh yeah, all day.
Check that one out.
Right. And we'll talk about that one in a minute. And that one is my favorite thing I've seen from Creepshow so far.
I go that one, and then is it House of the Head?
House of the Head with the doll in the season 1. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this one was executed as well as that one, but more fun.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, but whatever's wrong with Dead and Breakfast is massively also wrong with Creepshow. Right?
Yeah.
So I feel like we were talking about at the beginning, some of the story choices make very little sense, and I don't know how that would happen with a project with this many good people, like kind of controlling it. Right. So that feels weird to me. But we talked about the possibility that maybe they think that's what the original Creepshow was doing, right?
Yeah, so last night we were talking about like the pulp versus cheesy moments and how we feel like Creepshow the movie had a very good, because it's a pretty thin line to balance. Like if you go tip over one way, you're gonna fall over to Cheeseville, USA, population them.
Totally.
The show's not balancing it.
Right, but so here's the thing. So this is the first thing I'm going to say in defense of Shudder's Creepshow is I think one of the things we've discovered is that this is really hard to do. Yeah. Like what they're trying to do is hard to do. This isn't mowing the lawn. This is Cirque du Soleil, right? So like in their defense, this is a pretty hard thing to pull off, right? I think because if you're just off by like a hair, what was corny. Like, okay, so like the guy's afraid of cockroaches and he gets swarmed with cockroaches. I mean, that's really on the nose. But how they executed it didn't feel on the nose.
No.
Right? Everything this Creepshow is doing feels on the nose.
Well, I could say like with the dead and breakfast one, like there was like some like pretty cheesy lines in there that like like there was a part where the influencer's talking to the lady and she says, "Oh no, dear," like she responds to her and calls her dear, and like when you hear that you're like, oh man, it's like reading someone's first draft of a script, you know. It's like which is what sucks, because then like you think about like that Bly Manor episode, you're like,
what the hell, you're like,
it's
what's
a
happening?
Complete knockout. Like that's 100% like episode,
right? But here's the thing, that's what I'm saying. So the second thing I'll say in defense is I think they think that Creepshow, that I don't think that they're missing the putt. I think they need to aim 3 feet left, and they're missing the putt. They think Creepshow is supposed to be written this way. They're doing it on purpose, I think. Yeah, is the problem. I don't think they're fucking up. I think they're purposely making a choice that the lines are going to land corny and the delivery is going to be corny. So here, I'll give you an example. Ollie Larder is amazing. Like, I don't know if I'm saying her right, but the actress that we know from Resident Evil and Final Destination and all the other, like, she was awesome in this episode. She's really good. But her character was like nothing, like you said, like weightless. Like there was no meaning to it. There was no payoff. Nobody cared. Yeah. And I'm like, why is this actress so good, and why do I give zero fucks about what happens to the character? And then I realized it was because she acted it too good. Like they were like, we want you to be a crazy undercover Lizzie Borden, right? Mm-hmm. That's their acting thing to her was that. And anytime she was like trying to do something subtle or whatever, they're like, no, we don't do subtle here. It's Creepshow. Right. Like do it big, right? And they kept like whatever, and whatever happened in that chemistry there forced her to play it like the most generic, like almost like you're working in a haunt.
You know what I think also contributes to that?
What's that?
And I think this is another big thing that we were even talking to Alex about last night, 'cause she was in the kitchen and she heard us like the episode, and you know she's a pretty good writer. She's second book deal happened this year. Indeed. They have a project like
we said before, eminently qualified.
Yeah, eminently qualified, more qualified than us.
Yes.
And Creepshow does a lot. They do this thing where like they tell you what's happening on screen while it's happening.
Yes.
So the door won't lock. They show you the door, and the characters, oh, this door won't unlock. We fucking know. We see that you can't get the door. So shut the fuck up.
They do that.
Just act.
They do that so often. They do it so often. But see, that's the thing. Is there's this repetitive shit that goes on. Like the famous Royale with cheese moment in Pulp Fiction. There's a lot of repetition in that dialogue. If you go back and you look, I mean, we all have fond memories of that dialogue, but that dialogue is not profound. That's the point, right? It's just cool, but it's not like deep. Well, I mean, it is, but like in a weird way. But they're repeating like themselves. They say the word fucking cheese like 80 times. Like you can do that if you're doing like whatever. The problem with this Creepshow is they're doing that. I think they need to do that.
Yeah,
but it's terrible.
Yeah, and like
because you're just showing us the boring parts. Like the interesting thing, it was hilarious to see these two ruthless killers arguing over slices of cheese. It wasn't about the fucking cheese.
Mm-hmm.
It was about the context of the dialogue. In this one, if there was cheese in a Creepshow episode, we'd hear the word cheese 80 times.
They'd be like, Grandma used to eat cheese before she killed people.
And then they would flash to her killing people with cheese. And then they would see cheese on the counter 85 more times. And then the camera would zoom on it. And then we'd get a color illustration of it. But no, that's not how you do that. That's the problem.
No, there was even a line in the Dead and Breakfast one where the influencer sees the mug. She goes, "Oh, no," she says, "Like, here's the router." We're like, again, it's 2021. We get it,
Right.
Please. So it Creepshow just they got to stop doing that. Like the tagline for the original Creepshow was "The most fun you'll have being scared."
Right.
I've not had fun, nor have I been scared.
Well, that's another problem, is that it's not scary. And then you and I had talked also about, like, I'm trying to imagine. So let's shift gears real quick and just talk about the good episode. Because the good episode, the television with the dead, that episode is actually good, but not exciting good. Just good. Just like
it was just good.
The best of what we've seen, but right, whatever. It's not like we I'd be like, okay, well, like the Twilight Zone reboot that I love, that most people hate, like whatever, from the 80s. Most of the episodes were not great, but like Nighthawks is a fucking masterpiece, directed by William Friedkin, right? Like that show had a high ceiling, right? If this is the ceiling of Creepshow, if public television of the dead is the ceiling of Creepshow, that's not good news for Creepshow. Is my point, right? Like, but anyway, so this episode. It was really entertaining. It had a lot of horror callbacks. It had Ted Raimi doing Ted Raimi stuff, which he's amazing at, which is really cool. But the thing about the Evil Dead universe is, even at its corniest, even in Army of Darkness, there's authentically scary moments. Mm-hmm. This is the first Deadite mythology thing with no scare in it at all. There's nothing scary. The scariest thing in this episode is Bob Ross.
He was great.
He was amazing.
Their version of Bob Ross, him talking softly. Okay, we're just gonna put some of this.
He was fantastic.
I will say, so when it comes to the episode, like the things right off the top of my head was like, it had the most interesting characters. Like, and I thought best acted. Like Ted Raimi was really great. The Bob Ross was great. Yep. The lady who ran the station was great. And then George ass sliding into the one table.
Well, they formed up into opposing teams, which we slowly saw coming through the episode, which was really good. It was like a well-crafted writing move. So that's, definitely like props to them, because you started to see that like the puppeteer was going to team up with Ted Raimi, and then the station person and George.
So,
right.
So for people listening, this episode basically there's a public access with 3 shows going on. One's a puppet show, one is a Bob Ross show, and the other one's like Antique Roadshow. And Ted Raimi is there as Ted Raimi with the Necronomicon, and the person on air starts reading it, and then Deadites
Ted Raimi's there trying to pawn the Necronomicon. For a Camaro or a hot tub, proceed.
Deadites are released throughout the station, and then you have like your standard like kind of like action Evil Dead situation, but set in Creepshow,
but with nothing frightening.
No, the monsters looked cool. Like the Deadites looked cool.
Totally. The callbacks were awesome. They were Halloween 3 Silver Shamrocking it, which was great.
Yeah,
great
they do a call out to the Sam Raimi like glide cam, whatever you call it,
which ended terribly, but looked cool until the ending.
Yeah, and then the jump scare of her like screaming and she's a Deadite now. Like it looked.
Although they did redeem that character, I had given up on her after that absolutely terrible reveal. But then when they came back and she was trying to get the world to pledge to the book from her show, that looked really cool.
Yeah, no,
she was pretty convincing.
They did this thing a few times where when you open up the Necronomicon, like your face, like the light shoots out from the book as you read it, and that looked cool. It looked cool when the Antique Roadshow guy did it, and it looked even cooler when the storybook lady started reading, because everything around her got dark and it was just her face.
I gotta say, actually, it now occurs to me, the Necronomicon looked cool, which is hard to do, because the Necronomicon usually looks like it's supposed to be like this glorious object, but when you look at it a little too clearly, it just looks like something at a flea market. Right? But it looked intimidating.
It looked cool. there was parts of it that we enjoyed this episode the most.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, what fell flat because we watched it and we were like, so okay, this is like the highest benchmark. Or do you like do you like this more or less than the season 1?
I like this more than like I said, I think they're equally well executed. I think they're both like B- efforts.
Yeah.
Like if letter grades exist anymore, I don't know. They're both like that. Like they're both like 70% on Rotten Tomatoes, and they but this one's more fun.
Okay.
So I'm definitely going to rewatch this more in my life if I ever rewatch a Creepshow episode. I'm more likely to rewatch this than the doll one. I might rewatch that one again. It had amazing visuals, like really, really well done visuals. But I think that's like 2 times in my life would be the max on that one. This I could see 3 or 4.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with all that. The Bob Ross character, being
for him, I
veteran,
feel like I would have to rewatch it just for him. He was amazing.
When they start talking about like he served on the front lines of Nam, and it cuts to him like staring off into the distance. You hear like helicopters and gunfire.
It was so good, and you know the funny thing is that they made the puppeteer really cartoony. So she did a great job acting it, but like that character was wobbly. But like then they went to Bob Ross, and I was like, it was like I was back in the first campfire. I'm like, oh, this guy's gonna scare the shit out of me. He knows what he's doing. He acted it like so menacing underneath, but normal on top.
He was fucking.
It's like
amazing.
the thing Kyle MacLachlan does with like in the Twin Peaks universe, where all of a sudden he's scary, but most of the time he's just like eating pie and having coffee.
Right. This was the funniest episode too.
Yes.
Like this had the best comedic moments of like almost all of them.
Totally, absolutely. But again, there was just like some atrociously stupid shit where the great stuff should be. Like the great stuff in the raft. I know there's Creepshow too, but like the great stuff in that story is the minimalism. How little you need to scare someone, right? Like, and that it gets into your bones. Like someone can scare me with like a shape or like just nothing, and then I can't even fight it because it's just impossible to grab or push off you or like whatever. It's like inevitable. It's terrifying, right?
Yeah.
That's what's in there. What's in here is, ooh, we're going to leak out of the public access TV and convert the whole world to kids with white eyes. You see the difference? Because that's not the same thing as what's in the raft story.
Yeah.
What's in here, where the glue should be, is just dumb shit.
That kind of reminds me of the latest Rings film, where like they start showing it on like all the TVs.
Yes.
And it's kind of like, okay, once you get that big, you're like, well, then fuck everything.
Well, that was, see, Halloween 3 did that right. That was terrifying, but that's because it was one of the first of its time to hint at that could happen.
They also spent a good amount of the fucking movie showing you what happens when people wear those masks.
True.
And showing worms crawling out of your mouth and like how devastating it can be. So like they put way more effort into like how bad this can get.
Right.
Whereas this one, like, they just kind of like, here's like a Pittsburgh ending event, like a citywide, kind of deal. So the one thing we talked about when we were watching it was Creepshow, the series. It almost treats the audience like they're really stupid.
Yeah,
like they're spoon feeding them, their blended food.
But again, because I don't want to slander. Like I really feel like that they're doing it on purpose
because they think that's
it's just a wrong choice. I think that they think. I don't think they think the original Creepshow thought the audience was stupid, but I think they think part of the fun of Creepshow is how simple it is. Right. So you can do like caricature, and you can do like really broad. You can be really on the nose, right? I think they think that's what's happening.
You know what I think is something like Creepshow, because I feel like Tales from the Crypt had like a way bigger budget, and like when they had big names come in, they had big fucking names come in.
Right.
You know what I mean? And Creepshow is, I feel like, trying to do that on the down low a little bit by like having, because like Tom Savini directed an episode, Greg Nicotero did 2 of these, Axel Caroline did.
And you got to admire sort of the guerrilla style nature of that.
Yeah, right? I mean,
but damn it,
I can admire the idea of how they think it would play out.
Right.
But so far it hasn't landed. But what I think Creepshow needs is, I think it needs a singular voice. I think they need one writer to knock in a good writer.
Yes.
To knock out multiple short stories
or a really fun bad one.
Someone who can, because that's the thing. It's like not everyone is going to be able to blend that line of pulpy and cheesy, scary and funny.
Right.
I think if they can find one person who can just bust out, and I think a season of Creepshow should be 6 fucking episodes. I don't know how. I think there's like 12 or something like that. Like, give that budget. Please give that budget.
Flesh it out.
Yeah,
to specialize
and give that money to the other people. And I don't know if my guess, my hope would be is that makes the material better. But I think if they just had a singular voice and then had, big time directors come in now and do their things, it could be a knockout, because the writing is so inconsistent with Creepshow that it sucks.
Right, and the thing is, the look is so when it's good, it's good. I mean, these kind of things, when you land them, when you pull off something like anthology style, like a Trick or Treat, like, it's just unforgettably good, right? Like they have it in them. Like, this has that in it.
They
right?
have
like that. That's kind of why we're rooting so hard for it. But like, it's just so weird.
If I could have, if Shudder said, Nick, we're going to give you a handful of money to do something with Creepshow, this is what I would do. I would be like, how much do you need to pay Stephen King? I'm serious. No, listen, I know this is an obvious choice, but it's fucking Shudder.
Did he do episode 1 of season 1?
I don't fucking know.
Or is it just based on a story? I can't remember.
Have Stephen King come up, do 6 episodes, and
so one voice. I got it.
One voice. But if say you were gonna do it the way King and Romero did it, or Romero did all directed them, I would say have oh my god, I hate that I had his name in my head. Mike Flanagan.
Yes. Because
Mike Flanagan has proven to do King stuff pretty fucking well.
That's interesting. He never seems to miss.
No.
So you got that going for you a little bit. And part of it might also just be the expectation game. I was wondering, because I mean, you're a huge Creepshow fan, and I really like Creepshow, but I really, it's not that I'm the biggest Creepshow fan in the world. It's that I really got it. Once you get Creepshow, like I was like, all right, so that's what that should be and how it should work, and whatever. And it's because it has such a literary tradition behind it. I know that sounds weird, but there's a lot of paper in the DNA of Creepshow, and this, whatever they're doing now, doesn't feel like it has any of that paper DNA. It's just weird what's missing from there. I don't know. I don't know how to solve their problem, but I'm rooting for them to solve it.
Yeah, I hope they do, man. Because I hate that I don't enjoy Creepshow. That's probably the biggest buzzkill of the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I think expectation-wise, but that's what I mean by the expectation game. I think maybe more was at stake with this one, just expectation-wise. It's not like we also watched The Dark and the Wicked, or whatever that was called, right? And that was, ultimately unimpressive, although it had really creepy elements and storyline stuff and visuals. It just was a jumble, right? So whatever. But ultimately, its biggest crime was that it was boring, right? So you're watching something boring, you're you were never gonna make it. This was never gonna make it for me. I knew when I was watching it. I'm like, I already watched, so I gotta figure out what happens. But I know nothing. I could tune into a Creepshow episode tomorrow, and it could be a masterpiece. This could make it.
That's what I'm saying. When we loaded up Shudder before we watched this, I saw they dropped another episode, and part of me was like, I bet this is good. Maybe this is the episode that converts me. I'm super open to
this is where it happens.
I unless I hear great things, or it comes to my, because most of the stuff I watch now is based off just recommendations, because everyone's recommending shows now, and we actually randomly watched 4 seasons of American Horror Story.
Oh, right.
And I never liked American Horror Story, but rewatching them again, and kind of 4 seasons in a row, I kind of liked it.
Yeah, interesting.
Mainly the
I wonder if the same thing will happen with Creepshow.
That's what. Yeah, maybe that'll happen. But fuck, I forgot where I was going with that. I didn't like American Horror Story. Now I really liked the seasons that we saw. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, Creepshow can be on that same.
I don't think it's the same thing, because I don't think you really watched American Horror Story before. I think this really is your first watch.
I really watched the first season.
But the first season is not great.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I mean, the first season can't be. That's got to be the worst in your ranking of the ones you watched, right? Or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the cult one fell off really hard at the end. And it was the scariest because they had those clowns in the home invading and murdering people Stranger style, which is who the guy who did the Strangers, the guy who directed The Dark and the Wicked, which didn't improve us. So I just couldn't. Listen, we can be gone for months, but I can make shit go full circle. I like that.
That was amazing.
God damn, what
really
mental gymnastics that I just
that's pretty
I
impressive.
just do there.
But shout out to Strangers Pray at Night, which I still fight for.
That's your underrated.
As I think that franchise is 2 for 2. I think those movies are equally good. I don't think one is better than the other. I think the second one is amazing. And you know, if that franchise continued, it would be one of those like sneaky answers to like what's the best quality horror franchise. If they could do like 2 more good ones in there.
Rock and roll.
But everyone thinks Pray at Night sucks for some reason. I don't know why. Besides his dumb name. The name's dumb.
Yeah, the name's a little weird.
What are you gonna do?
You've been kicking ass hardcore on the Facebook page.
Oh yeah, come follow us on Facebook.
We cracked 100,000
Hello Weekly. Yes,
followers.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, now we gotta. I gotta.
It's an incredible community and super interactive.
How do we get that?
And
blue,
super smart.
I want that blue check. Facebook, are you listening?
Yeah, come on, Facebook. What the hell?
Who we got?
That's ridiculous.
Which robot's back do I gotta scratch over there? Facebook.
What the heck?
Let's make that happen.
But it is fun, and we had a discussion. We put out a post saying. Asking people what horror movie they would rate 10 out of 10, and it kind of developed.
I did post it on Instagram.
Yes, and we got some cool answers. Let me go through some of what you see.
I pinned a few. I pinned a few on Instagram.
Okay, let's see. What
follow us on Instagram too.
Absolutely, at Hello Weekly. Go.
Hello Weekly or Hello Weekly Pod. I don't remember.
It's Hello Weekly.
Either way, you'll see the logo. You'll
see an orange logo.
You'll know who it is. Okay, so some of the top ones. Usual Suspects. It's not; these aren't going to be out of left field. There is one that
I thought you were saying Usual Suspects.
The usual.
I was like, there's no way anyone said that.
They were like, that Kaiser Sose shit really spooked me.
Terrified by limping.
Okay. So Michael Jordan Maxwell said The Thing.
Yes.
He got 10 likes on that one, so
Nice.
you know people fucking mean it.
Yep.
And then we got Halloween with 12 likes.
Yeah.
This one I thought was kind of interesting. Someone put High Tension.
Oh, no shit.
Would you have guessed?
No, because that's a famously controversial ending.
Yeah.
So, like, to call that 10 out of 10 means that you think that ending is a 10 out of 10 ending.
Yeah. Then we got things like Argento Suspiria, More the Thing, Poltergeist, Cabin in the Woods, which I was kind of shocked to see, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I saw that all over Facebook, too. Can we back up a second? Poltergeist. I love
That's a smart one.
that was getting so many shout outs. I thought that was kind of a more quiet of the forgotten, brand. I don't hear a lot about Poltergeist.
No.
You don't feel like when you're at horror conventions, you don't see a lot of people dressed up as like Carol Ann or whatever. Like,
no.
But it shows up for these like high, when you set a high threshold in your question, Poltergeist always shows up. I love that.
That's a good one. Surprising, people were saying Hereditary.
Yep.
That
seems to be the most recent consensus.
Yeah, I like that. Texas Chainsaw, and then the only person who put this, which I thought was kind of smart, was 28 Days Later.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, because Danny Boyle's pretty freaking good.
Yeah, we got that on Facebook too. The first thing, I mean, you know me, I overthink everything. So like, I was like, what is 10 out of 10? And then like, what would I pick that I could say that about 10 out of 10? And then I realized that's not that hard. I mean, King Kong, the original is 10 out of 10. Cat People's 10 out of 10.
Cinemassacre said a good thing about King Kong.
What's
how a lot of film schools or film history people, like, not mostly film schools actually, they'll show like Casablanca or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he goes, I think King Kong's a more important film than Casablanca.
Yeah, and just as well done. Like that's the thing. There's no flaw in King Kong. So
I don't know if I agree with that statement, but I think it's worth noting.
Right, exactly. And then I was like, oh, there's a bunch of 10 out of 10 movies. The Thing. Actually, both The Things might be 10 out of 10. That's how easy it is to do a 10 out of 10 movie, good. Right? So when I realized that there might be 2 10 out of 10 Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So when I started to realize,
so you're trying to go for 20 out of 10.
Fucking I was like, okay, well, I'm like, this is easier than you thought. That's why I got so aggravated when people still fucked it up, because it's kind of easy. So then I was seeing people like come in and do dumb shit where like this one person comes in and goes, he didn't even give an answer. He was like, I just came here to see if some idiot would say Blair Witch Project, and they did. Ha ha, Blair Witch is the most boring movie of all time, et cetera, et cetera. And then he wouldn't give an answer of their own, right? So I'm like, that kind of stuff is annoying when you see like whatever. But he ultimately was like, got more on board with the discussion. But the cool thing that started to happen was people would give some really niche answers that were really interesting, like Night of the Hunter, which you and I would both agree is 10 out of 10, right? Or The Changeling, the George C. Scott movie. Or like there was an interesting like Mummy side thread. So every the Mummy got, but that's the thing is the Mummy got it. So like the Karloff Mummy, they got it. You're the Mummy, they got it. Not the Tom Cruise Mummy, but there were multiple. There was even a Christopher Lee the Mummy, which is amazing because that's a great movie. But what was cool was no matter how maybe obscure it was, if it was right, I'm assuming that
I know what you mean by right.
But being right,
there's answers that are wrong.
Right, there are answers that are clearly wrong. If you come in and say The Happening, you're just wrong. Like you're clearly wrong. That's not a right answer, right?
Right.
So, like there's an objective right and wrong here. So if you said anything that was right, if you came in and you said Basket Case, all of a sudden in your thread you had 3 people going, "Yeah, that's my perfect movie too."
You
Basket Case.
When you were telling me about the threads that were happening, I immediately imagined like high school lunch in the pockets of people sitting together,
which is so cool to see people connecting on this very similar. And there were like, and it's because there's like the pockets of the ones that are you could tell that are like just dying to know that there's someone else out there that knows how good this fucking movie is. Like that's how I am with that Night of the Demon, right? Or like Possession, the 1981 movie, or like whatever. And you saw that starting to happen in there, and I just thought that was so cool to watch. That there was very little of the like Blair Witch sucks or the Babadook is annoying, crap that always happens, and a lot more of the intelligent discussions about like why this might be 10 out of 10 and actually why some of the movies that you just assume you could just say like and be right may not be right, like you would think that you could just like pick a classic and be like it's a done deal, that's like whatever, like Elm Street 3 I actually put in the picture for the post, right, because I think that's a pretty damn close to perfect movie, but I don't think it's a 10 out of 10. I think it's a 9 out of 10. That's why I used it in the picture, because that's what makes it interesting to me is there are things in Elm Street 3 I would change. Right, I wouldn't keep that movie exactly as is, but I wouldn't change a fucking frame of Halloween 78, right? That's 10 out of 10.
Yeah. No, I threw in Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking perfect.
Like I typed it and I was like, do I believe that? And then I just kind of sat there for a minute and I was like, no, there's definitely no way.
But there's a whole string of like Jaws, Alien, like you're right.
Alien would have probably been.
It's the other tier where it gets interesting, where you're like Event Horizon. Well, no, that's not right, right? Yeah. Like, but I don't know that it's obvious that's not right. Like,
out of all the pockets that we've mentioned, I think the table that I would skirt over to is the Mummy table. Like, there's no way. There's no way.
You would have a blast over there.
There's no way that table's not full of cool dudes, man. I swear to God.
That's totally right.
My people.
I'd be all alone over at Cat People 42 table. I'd have like a dusty.
You and like Korean War veterans.
God damn it.
Just wear their POW hats, just sitting there going, "So Val Luton, huh?"
I'm just trying to think of. We got to do this. I'm trying to think of a table that's a movie that I agree is 10 out of 10, but I don't want to be at their table. Like, I don't want to be at the Martyrs table.
No.
Like, I know that movie's 10 out of 10, but I don't want to be at the Martyrs table. Right? Like, the Craft table is going to be... Yes.
Even though I love the movie, I wouldn't want to be at the Texas Chainsaw table. I just got a weird feeling, man.
Right. You know? I mean, there might be some barbecue.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if I smell barbecue over there, I'm leaving. I'm like, that's somebody's ribs. That's a human being's ribs getting barbecued.
Right. And there's going to be like, the trick or treat table is going to feel like everyone's going to be wondering who the other person is in the story that relates to. It's like being on Joker's team in the beginning of Dark Knight. Like, you trust. The nice neighbor is clearly not the nice neighbor, and the innocent looking 8-year-old is.
I bet the Hereditary table is like that dinner scene, and you sit at the table, Tony Collette just comes and screams at you the whole time. the whole time. That'd be kind of
Well, I can spot the Hereditary table from far away. If I look at a table and there's 10 people and 20 feet, 9 heads, I'm not sitting.
You're like, no,
I'm not sitting at that.
Let's screw it over.
That math doesn't work for me.
No, that'd be awful.
The Saw table is clearly
The Saw table's a nightmare.
It's clearly not where you want to go, right? Like,
oh, the table. No, the table I wouldn't want to sit next to is the Hellraiser table.
oh,
A bunch of
the Hellraiser table would be a poor choice because that just seems.
It would either, depending on who you are, be awful or fucking rock. It depends on where you're at in your life.
You gotta win the hellish lottery.
Yeah, you gotta really.
The odds are against you, but I mean,
You walk past, you hear people getting slapped with chains, just screaming like, "See, that's why I'm over here at the Mummy, man. We're just hanging out with Brendan Fraser, having a great time."
Right, yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna get tricked into sitting at the Get Out table because I'll just look for the Obama signs, vote Obama.
It'll be
sticker. I'm not worried about that. They'll have milk and Fruit Loops.
No, you'll sit there and then they'll start stirring that tea, and then
yeah. Oh fuck.
Yeah,
yeah. You're right. I underestimated.
I think the Mummy's like the safest choice.
Yeah, the Mummy is clearly
Alien. Someone starts choking on their food, and they get on the table, and then the chest burster comes out. See, this is awful.
Everyone's got to know the Heimlich. It's required if you sit at the Alien table. So yeah, I think I think it was fun what was happening in the thing. I appreciate everyone that commented. Follow us there if you haven't already, so you can contribute some more because I think it's literally it's amazing that no one could mention a movie like, and that was the thing is sometimes I see someone say something and like I agree with it and I feel bad because I know no one's gonna back them, right?
So you like it, you sympathy right. I do that all the time,
right? You know,
like oh, you poor thing.
Well, it's not poor because they're right, but it's just like, and I'm sure given most of the ones that I've seen, they're not the kind of people that care too much about validation anyway. So like, good on you. That's right. Whatever. But like, I'll see it and I care, right? So like, someone will pop in and be like, Pontypool, and I'm like, oh man, there's just not going to be a large Pontypool community. There can't be. And then all of a sudden, I'll see 2 or 3, and then some comments. I'll be like, this is fucking great. This is exactly like
Didn't
what we
see Dagon though. That's the one.
Yeah, boo.
That's the one I would have.
But Dagon's not a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, you're right.
I love Dagon and I love Stuart Gordon. And Reanimator is a 10 out of 10. But Dagon,
that's true.
Dagon's not, unfortunately, quite 10 out of 10. 8 out of 10.
I'll give it 8 out of 10. Yeah.
Dagon's a good movie.
Yeah.
That's actually a good example for this one. It makes me wonder, like, I think all of the ones that I know about that you love, like the Sleepy Hollows, they're all 10 out of 10s. The ones I can think of off the top of my head, it's not like but it was more I said Exorcist 3, and that seemed to like ignite a war, which I didn't mean to.
I think that's
to do, but because I thought that had kind of come around to be kind of accepted at this point. You maybe deduct half a point for Fabio.
No, you add 5 points.
5 points for Fabio. Well, then it's
then the NFL guy.
It's a 15 out of 10. Yeah.
There's nothing to argue.
But anyway, it's fun.
And lastly, you had a book recommendation.
Oh yeah, I mean, so basically, we want to do a book or a game of the week, just because it's not all about movies, right? Like that's part of why we love the horror genre is that it's really broad. It like leaks and kind of helps steer a lot of the other genres. It's not like thrillers and horror or like know like whatever. Thrillers are stealing from horror more often than not. So it's like that it's not just movies. There's horror music, there's horror art, there's like et cetera. So the thing that I was really craving though that got me excited was Elvira has a book, like a comprehensive book for the first time. And coming out of this, like at least at this moment of the phases of the pandemic or whatever, like her staying power is
ridiculous, dude.
Fucking inspiring, like almost intimidating staying power, right? To be in the cultural mind and to just be relevant all the way through.
Right.
Like it's literally like watching someone do a balance beam routine in a Final Destination movie for 2 hours straight and never get hurt.
Well, dude,
like, how are you doing it?
Even when I didn't know. I wish I would have known this, but she did like a show at Knott's Berry Farm during Halloween, and then there was news of like her being like her last one, and like you gotta be a badass motherfucker for everyone to be like, and now she's retiring. Like,
right.
If you missed it, you suckers.
You're like, it was right. It was like you were lucky to live at the time if you saw Hendrix play, and if you didn't, you know.
But even like I remember seeing like we would go to. Do you remember like when they had those like those random drive-throughs in the Midwest where you drive through and get like sodas and ice and like random snacks?
Yeah.
You don't see those out here,
no.
Really. But like those used to be like a big thing.
Yeah.
But I remember there was one we would go to. My family would always buy big bags of ice at this one.
Oh,
I don't
Jesus.
remember because
Sure.
we didn't have like an ice machine. It was like the 90s. But I remember they always had an Elvira like Budweiser cutout that they always had there. So like even from like a young kid, I always knew who that was. And then they also had an Elvira ride kind of at Kings Island for a hot minute, and I always remembered that one.
That's what I mean. Is she was like culturally there, and the other thing is because this is a book recommendation, and I'll just put my cards on the table. I'm a fucking snob. Like Shakespeare is my favorite writer, so like she's really fucking smart and a great writer. So like the story is interesting. Her observations are incredible. The stories of stuff she's lived through. Mm-hmm. I mean, all of that shit is amazing. She's just like one of the coolest figures in the genre. So but it just felt like because of the whole pandemic situation, the idea of like getting inside the mind of someone who's like like just conquered everything in her career path for as long as she's tried.
Right.
I was like, this, and it, it's amazing. So go check it out, and let us know what you think, and let us know other book things we can shout out or games like.
Yeah, I don't have a horror book. I have been on an audiobook tear though.
Oh, you have?
Oh my god, yeah. Like I'm finishing the sales book, and like I hated it, but then like I started listening to it, I worked out, and I felt like Norman Bates. I'm just like getting jacked listening to sales tips.
American Psycho. Man.
No, but I still been chasing the high of the book Creativity Inc.
Oh right. That's right.
About the Pixar guys, Ed Catmull.
That's
if you're, I swear to God, because a lot of people in our group are like artists, writers, that kind of thing.
Totally.
I think because I don't want to be left out. I'm having FOMO from the book club. I'm
like,
I want to have a book.
Jump
that one for if you're a creative person, listen to that goddamn book.
Yes,
it is so great. I am obsessed. They have these things called the Pixar Brain Trust, and it's where all the creatives would go in, and like it would be like the directors, the writers. And sometimes it wouldn't even be like it would just be like janitor. Like
wow.
And they would just have these like real discussions about how they felt about how the project was going, and they held nothing back.
No shit.
And who's the guy that did Iron Giant and The Incredibles?
Brad
Bird. His stories are crazy, and the great thing is they give you these details, and the guy who narrates the book, he goes, and you didn't have to take the advice, which was a very, very big thing.
Sure.
But the Brad Bird story I loved was there was a scene in The Incredibles where Mr. Incredible and Miss Incredible were arguing, and it just came off as spousal abuse because Mr. Incredible's fucking huge,
right?
And Miss Incredible, she's very elastic, but the size was really weird. So they were talking to him, and then Brad Bird was like, "Never mind, I got this," and he went home. And so every time Mr. Incredible would yell, when Miss Incredible yelled, she would get bigger and like inflate herself and show dominance in size, and it completely did it. Anyways, if you're creative, listen to that book.
Weird to think about. It's so weird to see behind the in I think Shakespeare or I think John Webster used to call it the skull beneath the skin. Like when you can see what's underneath. Like you're that visual is cool, but it was a problem solve.
Right.
Right. Like it was a creative problem in their path, and that was the solve, and we saw it on the screen, but we just thought it was like a character touch, but it was actually them blowing through an obstacle.
They're like, "Yo, this looks bad. This looks awful."
That's interesting to see the skull. That's cool.
Yeah. So all right. Well, that's it. We're back. I wish if copyright things weren't a thing, I would put in that song. The boys are back now. The boys are back.
You just
now.
did.
No, if I sing it, it's still Sony. Whoever,
that was so accurate. They're gonna.
yeah,
they're gonna take
it sounded
us for-
just like it. They're gonna actually start sending me the royalties. They're like, you know what, dude, you fucking earned it. So we're back. If you like this episode, shoot us a review. It's been since October since we've had our last one, so you could break barriers for 2021.
Yeah, for sure.
Commenting. So go ahead and slap
Totally.
5 stars on that, dude. And
we
let
appreciate
us.
it. We are back though.
We are back. Let us know if you have a fix for the Creepshow problem, because
Yes.
I'm gonna march.
Or if you have a fix for us misunderstanding Creepshow problem, because we could just
Let me
we
know.
could just be wrong.
Yeah, maybe we're missing it. All right, so next time, stay scary. Watch a bunch of horror movies. Bye.
Bye.